Coach Corner Cow fans, and thanks for joining me on again a hot Monday, and I think probably the last hot day, I guess, for the fall. And supposed to get some storms tomorrow, so that's good for the farmers, I guess. So review of Delphos St. John, intro to New Bremen coming up this Friday at New Bremen. Spotlight our last senior player, Eddie Obringer, today. One of the last seniors. Support staff, a couple of the guys that work up in the press box. I'll get to those later. And then this week I'm going to kind of feature the quarterbacks. You know, last week I did the kickers. This week I'm going to do all those quarterbacks that since I got here with Coach Reed for those 8 years, and then the I guess this is my 16th year this year. And so all those different quarterbacks that the main starting quarterback for those years. And so let's get into it. Delphos St. John last week. Coach Schulte, a great coach, one of my favorite coaches in the league, and really favorite coaches around. Came to town and they just, I think they only had 29 players. So just the situation with the number of students has really created a tough situation on getting enough players to play. And of course, some of their best athletes are basketball only guys, maybe basketball, baseball guys. And so that's taken away some of those really good skill guys right now. And hopefully they can get it going and maybe get their enrollment back up. But the score was 42-7 in a good win for us, fun win, but frustrating. We had 13 penalties, and they probably had 6, 8. I don't know. There's just a lot of penalties, and so it was kind of a frustrating game. We did, the fun part of it was we had so many big long plays. We had a 97-yard run for a touchdown. We had a jailbreak screen, what we call on a I don't know, a 2nd and 25 after a penalty for about a 50-yard play. We had a reverse. Caden Obringer had those two long touchdowns. Probably both, one about 40 and one about 50. And so we had some really good, fun, long plays. Johnny Pullman had one right up the chute on a pass for about a 50-yarder. So probably 4 touchdowns over 40 yards. So it was fun game that way. Defense played well. We got some things we can work on both sides. Obviously, those penalties is a problem, and most of them were holdings on offense. Several of those penalties, we didn't feel like we tackled great. We missed several tackles. So that's something we'll address this week, and maybe take an extra period and work on our wraps and running our feet, things like that. But overall, a good game for us. Kicking game was good again. We can continue to do that with Bryce up to 80, I think, maybe even in the 90s now. In the 80s or 90s, consecutive extra points, and you throw Bennett Spriggs has been our long snapper his third year, and he's only a junior, so you got to have a good snap on all that stuff. So, and he's a great long snapper for punt too. So those two guys are just keep kicking them through and snapping them back there. So we move on to New Bremen, who is 4-3 right now. They do have a good win against Versailles. They scored on the last play of the game, about a 25-yard pass. Some good tough games against Fort Recovery, and last week against Minster. They were leading against Minster at half and just got away from them a little bit. But a good solid team. Coach Schmidt does a really good job of just being really, really solid and doing some good things, especially on defense. They mix it up a bunch, and you're not sure ever really what you're going to get. And so we've watched, at this point in the season, you get every film. So I've watched them play 5 times against good teams. And so it's hard to figure out from week to week. They give you some different things, where some teams, exactly what you're going to get. And so he does a good job with that. So they from what we saw last week, they're in a 3-4 defense, which about half the teams, a little over half the teams, play some form of 3-man front with 4 linebackers and 4 defensive backs, and then two or three or four, we've faced the last couple weeks with Parkway and Delphus, and Versailles are a 4-man front team, so we'll face those guys, Versailles, next week again, after New Bremen. So again, they come in at 4-3. Last year it was 24-7, probably closer than that, but so we're looking forward to the challenge at New Bremen, starting at 7 o'clock, and I think the weather's supposed to be good again, so a little bit cooler. So that'll be awesome for us. So our spotlight senior player, Eddie Obringer, number 58. Eddie is a senior. Eddie is a really, really good fun guy for us. He doesn't play a ton for us. He did have a pass breakup, a kind of an unusual pass breakup. He's a defensive end, and on a scramble, somehow he ended up on the scramble in pursuit, and the quarterback threw it up, and Eddie had a chance for an interception, but couldn't make the catch. But Eddie's a great teammate. And at school, he's a great leader, and he's in everything. Eddie's involved in all the plays, and he's in the band, and so Eddie gets a little taste of everything at school, and great experience for him at school. So Eddie's good positive guy for the whole school, and for our team. So congrats to Eddie for hanging in there all these years in football while he's doing all that other stuff. So support staff. I don't think I've ever mentioned these guys. I don't know why, but I'm going to. So up in the press box, the scoreboard guys and clock operator, two of my ex-teammates from way back, Bruce Slavic and Gary Griesdorn. Bruce was 2 years older than me. He was our center when I was a sophomore, and he was a really good baseball pitcher. And so, he had a good football, baseball experience. And then Gary Griesdorn, Gary was a year ahead of me. He was one of our defensive ends when I was a junior on our undefeated team. So Gary was a good defensive end, and his son Drew was a really good player. So anyway, so those two run the scoreboard and operate the scoreboard, and then Will Hoskins, who I don't know how close you follow the Cavs, but Will is our new basketball coach. He's been with us. He took my job as a health teacher. So Will's a good guy from the Dayton area. Went to Fairborn High School, and so he's done the announcing the last few years. So thanks to those guys. And then finally, I told you I was going to review all those quarterbacks from over the years. And so fortunately, we've had a series of really, really good quarterbacks who almost all of them, I don't know that any of them weren't at least two sport guys, and several of them 3 sport guys over the years, and really good quality guys. And some of them have come back and live here, and some of them are young, obviously later on, young guys that are still in school or working, and so that list I'll just go through pretty quick there. But when I first got here, Kevin Hoyne was in his senior year, even though he was a starter as a junior before I got here. So Kevin Hoyne was a 2-year starter. Alex Hoyne followed Kevin for 1 year. Sam Slavic, who's down at Mississippi State, I believe, or Ole Miss, one of those two, as a baseball coach. So Sammy got a year in. Then Steve Borger was a 2-year starter, and he was the quarterback of our first state championship team in 2005. So following Steve was Corey Klinke, and Corey had 2 years. Corey played some other positions before taking over a quarterback. So Corey had 2 years and was part of that 2007 team. Keith Wenning took over after for Corey, and played in that state championship game in 2007 through a couple trick plays. That was awesome. And then of course I think he has the record for the most touchdown passes in a season, I think, in his senior year. The next year, Ethan Bettinger was going to be our starter, and he broke his ankle during two-a-days. So he ended up coming back and playing receiver, and then the quarterback who took over for him, Austin Bruns, got hurt in the playoffs. So Ethan came back and was a quarterback in a state championship game. Austin Bruns was actually a 3-year starter, 11, 12, I guess 10, 11, and 12. He took over for Ethan when he got hurt. And Austin did a really good job, ended up playing at Ashland College, a Division II school. So he owns quite a few of the records because he's one of the few three-year starters that we've had for yards and maybe touchdown passes. I don't know all those records, but so Austin was a three-year starter. Brody Hoyne followed Austin, and he was a great safety for us and ended up playing a three-year starter at Eastern Michigan. So Brody had two. Jack Hemmelgarn. Brody was a two-time state champ quarterback. Jack Hemmelgarn in 2015 took over for Brody and we won the state that year. Dylan Tobey in 2016 had a one year and was in that state final game when we lost right at the end, unfortunately, in that game. But so Dylan was also a good DB. Sam Broering came in the next year for 1 year and had a good year. Jake Hemmelgarn came in then and took over for 2 years, and we made a couple good runs and so Jake got two. Miles Blassingame came in for the 2020 year. Now Miles was a three-year starter, but won as quarterback. And Miles was the state champ quarterback in the COVID year, so a 12-0 team. Reese Dellinger followed Miles. Reese was a really good baseball player, along with a lot of those guys were really good baseball players. So Reese had a good 1 year run, and we made a good run in his senior year. Marcel Blassingame then came and had one really good year of really athletic DB and receiver. And unfortunately for Marcel, dang it, he got hurt his senior year going, in I think the 8th or 9th game going into the playoffs. So he did come back and play in the final game, but just wasn't healthy enough to play like he played in some of those great games. And then Balin Blockberger took over for Marcel for the last 2 years. And so Bay had a good run at it, obviously. And then we won the state last year in Bay's senior year. And of course, now we have Carson Homan as our quarterback. So Carson's a junior. So unless something were to change, he would be a 2-year starter after next year if that continues. So really proud of those quarterbacks, good sharp guys, good leaders, and like I said, almost all of them. In fact, I think as I look at that list up there, I think all of them were baseball players except maybe Austin Bruns was a really good basketball player. And I guess Brody didn't play he played in his early, well, he did play baseball. Yeah, he didn't play basketball those years. So almost I think all those guys played baseball with the exception of Austin. So good two-way, and a lot of them three. So proud of those quarterbacks. Next week, we're going to dive into, get off the players and dive into some of our scouting and some of our prep work that some of you like to see. So again, back to this Friday, we play New Bremen at 7 o'clock. Hopefully we can get a victory and celebrate in the weekend, get ready for Versailles.